Hey, how's it going? Without wasting too much time, let's jump into another episode, alright? Stick with me. Let's go. Takumi finally meets the owner of the company, Mulan, and right off the bat, Popek mentions that our protagonist is a bit uneasy with this whole slave contract talk. But Mulan keeps it real, saying that in their kingdom, slaves have rights. According to the rules, the owner has to ensure the well-being of the slave, and neither of them can harm each other. And the most important thing of all, the master can't force the slave to do anything that's not in their contract. Additionally, the slave is obligated to protect the master's secrets. Takumi is shocked, thinking he's encountered yet another medieval system, but then he realizes it's almost like a job with an employment contract. You know, the same thing your boss is doing to exploit you. Congrats to us, right? Mulan explains that there are different types of slaves. Popek suggests that Takumi pick a war prisoner since they can only be freed with the master's permission. Mulan gives Takumi a suspicious look. He explains that he has skills he needs to keep a secret. As part of the Adventurers Guild, he could end up exploring dangerous places and searching for rare items, so he needs someone who knows how to fight and can accompany him on these missions. Mulan immediately responds with, "Hold up, security and looking after a mansion are two completely different jobs," suggesting that maybe he should get 2 slaves instead of just 1. She then introduces Maria, an orphan girl who was trained to manage a household. Takumi takes the opportunity to explain to her how things work around the mansion, and Maria, super excited, immediately says she can handle anything there. What surprises our protagonist is the fact that no one had contacted such an efficient girl before. But before he can say anything, Maria turns all flustered and says she can do everything in the house, but she's not sleeping with him. Takumi is in shock because that kind of thing never even crossed his mind, even after seeing this little cutie, huh? Alright then. Once the commotion dies down, she asks him if it's okay to just handle the cleaning part, and he confirms. Mulan mentions that there are no war prisoners available at the moment, but Maria remembers someone, Sophia. Mulan gives her a sharp look, telling her not to get involved, and to go take care of her things and leave. Takumi, curious, asks about her, and Mulan mentions that Sophia has some issues, which immediately triggers Takumi's radar. He decides to trust his instincts and insists on meeting her. Mulan then introduces Sophia, an elf who was captured 50 years ago during the war between the kingdoms. Since then, no one has ever made a contract with her. Mulan warns that Sophia has a wound on her body, can't fight, and her magic has been completely sealed. Yeah, she's pretty much useless as a warrior, right? Still, our protagonist asks to speak with her alone. She introduces herself, but Sophia flat out says that she won't be of any use to him. In response, our protagonist simply grabs her head and opens her status. He nearly has a breakdown when he sees that Sophia is actually an insanely strong warrior. If he can heal her and remove the seal, he'll have an incredibly powerful ally on his side. When Mulan comes back, he immediately says, "I want to make a contract with her," leaving Sophia stunned. After that, the paperwork is done, and the magical contracts are established. When they arrive at the mansion, the girls are shocked to see Maple. Takumi calmly introduces his giant pet spider and says that everyone will live together in the house. He then gives them separate rooms, but Sophia thinks it's too much luxury for a slave. Our protagonist, not too concerned, says that there are plenty of empty rooms in the house, and that there's a wonderful bath they can use. While they relax in the bath, Maria comments that she never imagined Mulan would let Sophia go, since she had always rejected all offers. Sophia, however, seems lost in thought. When Maria asks what's wrong, she mentions that most of Takumi's information was left out and blank in the contract, including his origin and lineage. She already thinks there's something very suspicious going on here. Our protagonist prepares dinner, leaving Maria a bit unsettled, since cooking was supposed to be her job. He tells her it's fine, and since it's their first night there, he wanted to do this to help them settle in. He says she can help him with the cleaning, and tomorrow she'll start with all those tasks. He also asks both of them to call him by his name, not master. The next day, our protagonist finds a church and is shocked to see a statue of the goddess. He thanks her for the blessings, but wonders why she spoke so badly of Sidonia. Suddenly, she is teleported next to him, and she explains that she doesn't belong to the Church of the Divine Light, nor to the Sidonia Empire. She mentions that the summoning reached her, so she took the chance to pull him into a conversation. She clarifies that there are 2 religions, the Church of the Divine Light, which was recently created, along with the false god, and the Sidonia Empire, which used force to spread the new religion and confront the true church, which is the Church of Creation. Unfortunately, Nolene can't interfere with any of this. She also takes the opportunity to mention that the blessings she gave will last forever. But the part that made his social life easier will be removed because the tutorial he was going through is almost over. In other words, the real game is about to begin. Meanwhile, in the Sidonia Empire, the Emperor asks about the heroes. He's informed that they are training, and that despite their initial frustration, Empress Elizabeth managed to convince them to fight for the Empire. We see Akira and Yamato giving their all in the training, but Akane refuses because she doesn't like violence. Elizabeth arrives and says that it's not about violence, but rather the strength needed to save the world. Akira promises to protect Akane, which impresses Elizabeth, but she still remains completely suspicious of the kingdom. Back at the mansion, Takumi informs everyone that he'll be busy in the workshop and asks them to have dinner without him. But Sophia decides to follow him. She finds him cutting his own arm and then healing the wound with magic. He mutters to himself that it's ridiculous, but he has to do this to train his skills. Suddenly, they both exclaim, "What Maria did was cruel." Hearing the girl's name, Sophia panics and rushes to confront him, but ends up collapsing on top of him, exhausted, passing out. Takumi takes her inside the house and lays her on the bed. He treats her hand, and despite her body resisting the healing, he manages to remove the seal on her magic and fully restore her. The next morning, Sophia tries to warn Maria about Takumi, but Maria, smiling, simply hands her a mirror. When Sophia sees her healed reflection, she realizes what happened and immediately runs to thank the protagonist. Now fully healed and with her magic restored, she kneels before him and swears eternal loyalty. Meanwhile, Nolene watches everything from the sidelines, pleased with how things are unfolding. The protagonist decides to take a walk in the town's library, but his disappointment hits hard when he sees that there are only 4 tiny books on alchemy. Is this for real? He thinks. Maybe it's because no one really cares about alchemy. Or maybe because someone who tried learning it already blew something up and gave up. He picks up the books and notices that they're written in an ancient language. But thanks to his VIP blessings package, he understands everything perfectly. On the way back home, Maria suddenly mentions that she can't forget that moment Takumi had with Sophia. Takumi panics and realizes he's been spied on. Pretending nothing happened, he and his team continue the mass production of the magical toilets. Maria, impressed by how much they've managed to accomplish, comments on how they deserve a well-earned rest. And Takumi finally feels like he can take a break, you know? Maria then asks if he plans to do anything else, and our protagonist casually mentions that he's planning to take a trip. Although satisfied with his life, he realizes that he wants to explore new possibilities. He explains that he'll be taking Sophia as his bodyguard, and Maple because, well, it's his pet, right? But he quickly adds that he'll leave her at the house to stay on protection duty. The girl pouts and asks if he considers her a burden because she wants to go along. Takumi assures her it's just that it's going to be too dangerous, man. And then comes the plot twist. Maria starts crying, saying she can't handle the house alone. Takumi realizes he'd be worried about her if he left her behind. He checks her status, and to his surprise, Maria isn't as weak as he thought. When he asks if she really wants to go, Sophia supports the idea, saying that she can teach Maria how to fight and use magic. And so, our protagonist's adventure party gains another member. Takumi wonders what weapons they'll need. Sophia lists an arsenal worthy of an army, while Maria only asks for a short sword. Sophia immediately scolds her, saying a short sword won't do any damage to monsters. What's wrong with you? Take a spear. And so, Maria gets some intensive spear lessons from Sophia. Our protagonist starts forging the weapons and notices his level is rising. He thinks about making armor for both of them, but measuring their bodies would be kind of weird. In his head, using the mannequins he made to take the measurements would make more sense. But, dude, how did you make the mannequins with their measurements and not measure their bodies? Something doesn't seem right in this story. After a few days, he hands the armor to both of them and is kind of blown away by how well it turned out. Sophia, on the other hand, is suspicious. How did it turn out so perfectly without him measuring anything on their bodies? Our protagonist quickly changes the subject and pretends nothing happened. Yeah, keep up that vibe, because you're wild. He also hands out magical rings to help with spellcasting. Sophia thinks it's a bit much and asks if he didn't burn through too much mana, but Takumi casually says it was just a training session, and that as a bonus, he learned how to use ice and lightning magic. With everything ready, they head to the Adventurers Guild to register Sophia and Maria. The receptionist remembers Takumi, mentioning that he still needed to complete some quests. Takumi thinks about picking something easy, but Sophia immediately interrupts. No easy stuff, man, or you'll never rank up. Our protagonist, however, couldn't care less about that. He just wants to go on his own journey and work on his alchemy projects. But of course, there's always someone trying to cause trouble. Another group of adventurers tries to approach Sophia and Maria in a not-so-friendly way, you know? Takumi, even though he's freaking out inside, tries to intervene and step in the middle of it. One of the guys tries to punch him, but Takumi strengthens his body with magic, and the result is that the guy ends up breaking his own hand. So the guildmaster shows up, thinking Takumi caused the whole mess, but Hans, the receptionist, explains the situation and what happened. When they ask our protagonist how he defended himself, he hesitates. The guildmaster assures them that personal information is confidential, and Hans notices traces of mana. Takumi then pulls a random explanation out of his head and says that he just covered his body with charcoal in his item box and turned it into diamond. No big deal, you know? Hans is impressed and suggests promoting them to rank D, which the guildmaster, Barak, agrees with, saying it will keep them out of trouble. On his first mission, he heads out to eliminate some goblins and other creatures. Maple, now with her telepathic communication, points out that there are some hiding in the forest. Sophia takes down 2 in the blink of an eye, while Maple uses her webs to take down the others, allowing Takumi and Maria to finish them off. But something feels off. They've already killed enough goblins for 3 of the missions they picked. Sophia suspects there's a nearby camp with a goblin general, which is at least rank C, and usually requires 5 groups of adventurers to be defeated. Our protagonist is thinking about bailing, getting the hell out of there, but Sophia suggests they should take him on and use a coordinated magic attack to kill the beast. Takumi's freaking out. He didn't even want to be in this mess, and she's talking about taking on a rank C monster. You're crazy, man. You picked the wrong bodyguard. She's throwing you into the fire. In the middle of their conversation, Maple says she's evolving. Takumi opened the portal for her to do it safely, but now they would have to fight without her. They plan a devastating magic attack, wiping out most of the goblins. But then the general and his knights appear as well. The general launches an attack at Takumi, but he manages to block it and finishes the fight with fire magic. On their way back to the guild, Barak yells at Takumi for facing something so dangerous alone. But then Maple steps out of the portal, now in a completely different and evolved form. She pushes the guildmaster back, and Maria can't handle it and shouts, "She got even cuter, man." And to their surprise, Maple can now speak for real. Ranzo shows up with their rewards and announces that Takumi has finally been promoted to rank C, while Sophia and Maria are now rank D. Back at home, Maria asks for some fabric scraps, leaving Takumi a bit confused. When he asks what she wants to do with them, she responds that she needs to make some underwear for herself and Sophia. Takumi almost chokes. He sees Maria's pockets and thinks this is so wrong, man, and ends up drawing a much better design. Then he snaps back to reality and realizes what he did, and goes into shock, thinking he might have offended her. But Maria just says, "So, are you going to make this for us?" Suddenly Maple announces that Popek has arrived, and when Takumi finds him, he's passed out. And the reason couldn't be anything else. He was shocked by Maple's new form, which knocked him out. As soon as he wakes up, he informs Takumi that Lord Bolton Godwin, or whatever his name is, wants to meet him. The protagonist is stunned, and Popek explains that he's actually the sponsor who prevents the Cydonia Empire from interfering with their business. So refusing isn't an option, brother. When our protagonist meets the guy, he's surprised to see him bowing to him. The Lord thanks him for the toilets Takumi made and says that he'd need to bow 1,000 more times, just because he managed to use them to improve his domain. He also thanks him for clearing the goblin camp from the region, and gives a warning. It's very likely that the Empire already knows about you, so it's best not to lower your guard, because they could show up at any moment. Back home, our protagonist decides to work on the underwear orders. 3 days without sleeping later, he finally finishes them. When he hands them to the girls and says, "Try them on," he realizes what he just said and goes into a shame spiral. Maria and Sophia just exchange looks and say, "If it makes you happy, we'll wear them." The guy went looking for silver and found gold. Forget it, man. But then, being the virgin he is, he just runs out of the room in a panic. It's at moments like these that I think, man, the steak only falls on the vegan's plate. There's no way around it. I just want to see what he's gonna do in the next episodes, man. So, did you like these 2 episodes? Let me know, man. Leave a comment. Hit that like to help out, give some support. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming videos and the stuff that's coming. You're not gonna miss this, right, brother? For the love of God, a little subscription. It won't cost you anything. It won't make your finger fall off. And this video that's playing now on your screen, don't click on it. You're not supposed to watch it. I want what's best for you, man. Go to the gym, drink water, read a book, close YouTube. Forget this. And don't watch anything I'm sending you here, man. You know what I mean? Don't click on that video. It's all good. We're together.